Hi, welcome back. I hope you've had a wonderful day today. Earlier on today we had a story about a maze and Percy the park keeper and how he likes to go for walks in his woods. And it might be that you are very lucky to have a wood near you, somewhere that you can go and be safe and look for the treasures that Mother Nature leaves us. Maybe it's some leaf skeletons, or maybe you might see signs of butterflies beginning to wake up, or snails or beetles. Or maybe there's a lovely little stream where you can go and perhaps see some tadpoles swimming around on the edge. If you're not lucky enough to have a wood near you, then it might be that you've got a garden and you could go investigating in the soil and digging around and seeing what you can find. Now, my daughter thinks I'm mad to be showing you these, because if you have got a garden, then you've probably got lots of the normal domestic type garden ones. But these, we've got 3 of them, and look, can you see? It's called a African land snail. I'll move my hand like this. And it loves to eat cucumber. And if we look, it's actually made a peephole where he's munched all the way through the middle using his special mouth. Now, the other day I introduced you to our lovely animal called a tortoise, and that he'd just woken up from hibernation. Well, these giant land snails, because they're much bigger than the snails you would find in your garden, they've been hibernating too, and they have only just woken up. And when they hibernate, they go right inside this shell, which is their special house that they carry around with them all of the time, and they create a special film inside to keep them nice and safe so that nobody can disturb them. And then when they're ready to wake up, they push that membrane, is what it's called, a membrane away, and out they come. So these are called land snails, giant snails. And if we look, he's just beginning to wake up with his eyes to have a little peep to say, who's talking to me? He's very big, isn't he? So I'll put him back in his special home. And on that basis, thinking about what the word giant means, we've got a special story for you today. So we're going to turn on our listening ears. Wiggle, 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 bing! Turning on our thinking brains. Pink one's a bit worn out. Mine needs oiling. Oh! Seatbelts on so you can be safe. Check your flaps. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. Check your fuel. Glug, 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 glug. Check your boosters. Vroom! Trucks away! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Okay, you ready? What story might have a giant in it? The word giant means to be very, very big. Here we are. It's the smartest giant in town. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. He's not very happy at all. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a a smart stripy tie and some smart socks with diamonds up the sides and a pair of smart shiny shoes. "Now I'm the smartest giant in town," he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was slipping sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said, as he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a river, and on a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a new sail for my boat." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his new white shirt. "It came untucked anyway," he said as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a tiny ruined house, and beside the house there stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're all squeaking. "Oh, what's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother. "It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said, as the mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squeaked. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a campsite, and beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his socks with the diamonds up the side. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said, as the fox snuggled in. It made a very fine sleeping bag. "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on singing along to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, My shirt's on the boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a big squelchy bog, and beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "Oh, what's the matter?" asked George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry path." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart new belt. "You were squashing my tummy anyway," he said as he laid it down over the bog. It made an excellent path. "Thank you," said the dog. The wind was starting to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, but my trousers are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town." Suddenly, George felt very sad and shivery and not at all smart. He stood on one foot and he thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes." He turned around and he hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, the shop was closed. "Oh no!" cried George, and he sank down on the doorstep and a tear ran down his cheek. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his way home. Then out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out from it. George took a closer look. "My gown!" he yelled. "My dear old gown and sandals!" George put them on and they felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the cosiest giant in town!" he cried, and he danced all the way back home. Outside his front door stood all the animals that he had helped on the way, and they were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George!" they said. "Open it! Open it!" George untied the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful gold crown and a card. "Look inside the card, George! Look inside! Come on, look inside!" said the animals. George put the crown on his head and he opened the card. Inside it said, "Your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So here is a very fine crown for the kindest giant in town." The end. I hope you've been lovely and helpful to whoever's been looking after you today. Remember that it's that time of day when you need to start popping things away and perhaps helping to lay the table, getting ready for a bath and a bed and snuggling down to go fast asleep. But now it's tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock when the big hand reaches number 12 and the little hand reaches number 3. It's 3 o'clock, which means it's time to go home. Cheerio!